How this goes is...
Let's just do it. She'll join in.
No.
Yes.
I have to explain it because
No, you don't.
People get confused.
She's been on my Better Call Paul podcast already.
You?
Yes.
Yeah. You told me about it.
I interviewed her on the way back from Fraserburgh on Friday evening.
It's fine. I don't listen to it anyway.
It was on the way there, actually, wasn't it?
Yes.
I should probably listen to it.
Yeah, you should. I get lots of congratulations from the podcast network.
It's fine. The first episode was a bit weird, that's why.
Yeah, but it was the first episode. I was finding my feet.
Okay. Anyway, so...
And now it sounds...
I usually start by saying hello, internet.
But she'll find that out when you do it.
Yeah.
Tell me when you started.
Oh my God, can you... Right. And then I say, I am Firebolt. He says, I am Neil. Do you want...
Who?
I need to wind you up. Let's do this in the episode.
No, we need...
No, we don't. We can do it in the episode. I've got to wind you up before we start because it gets you in the right mood. This all goes on the recording as well. And it's far more entertaining for the public.
It's not entertaining for me.
I've got all this in hand. I've thought about all this. We're going to...
Have you thought of a nickname?
Yes.
My nickname?
Right.
Well, you'll have a chance to make up your own, but I have thought of one in lieu of that.
Choice.
A wise one.
Anyway.
Now, this is the bit where he tries to start the podcast and fails several times.
Only because you keep talking over me.
Sounds a bit like Grandad. Ooh. Conversation stopper.
I don't think he listens to it. You're all right with that. I was just trying to work out who Grandad is because I get confused because I'm Grandad, but also...
Grandad, Mike.
Grandad.
Right.
And I didn't know if you meant my granddad because it gets very confusing.
No, Grandad, Mike.
Right. Okay. Just apologies in advance.
I'm confused.
We swear a lot on this podcast. I don't know if... I don't know what your attitude towards that are, but I will still swear a lot.
And
Why?
also, apologies in advance. It's very likely that at some point religion will come up. We will try not to be offensive to you. But it's not that
Remain
easy.
silent on the subject.
Oh, give as good as you get.
Okay.
We have a listener who's very Catholic, actually.
I've got a guilt complex like me, then.
She knows you already, Craig.
Right, are we
Shall
ready
we?
to begin?
Well, I've been ready for a while.
What's my nickname?
This is going to be a really long pre-intro, isn't it?
What's my nickname?
Well, we haven't started yet, so we'll do that actually in the episode.
Yeah, I don't know it yet, so...
I don't know what reality is. Oh, shit, sorry, I've just... Spoilers.
Shut up. Spoilers. They can read the title of the episode.
Can they, though?
Well, maybe not Craig.
He gets so much flack.
Hello, Internet. I am Firebolt.
Well done.
God,
I'm the Orbiter.
do it. Christ.
I just did. We are joined today by a very special guest.
Yes.
We should call it Breaking Nan, the channel for this episode, shouldn't we?
Well, no, because that would kind of ruin the wordplay.
We don't have an introduction.
You could call me Mars,
Why?
because you've got
Try not to hit the mic stand because it comes out of a big.
heavenly names, Firebolt and whatever.
Well, Firebolt's from Harry Potter. The Orbiter is it's about a fairground ride. It kind of derived from a Queen song, but
I'm Star Stuff, and that's to do with a Carl Sagan quote
it is.
about the universe.
Star Stuff is back with us as usual, and we'll chip in whenever we
Say something
allow her
demonstrably false.
whenever I open the mic. And yeah, I didn't do this with you because I call myself Paul in my podcast when you joined me, which
Yes,
that episode will be out, for those who are listening to this, will be out next Monday, which will be the 8th.
Yes.
So you need to pick a name. They're kind of our gamer tags, these. Now, I had thought of one, but it might get a bit confusing. I had thought, because you've been in the past quite often known as Mrs. B, haven't you?
Still am.
Yeah, but we've got two Mrs. B's in the room.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought, seeing as perhaps you are the the root of the musical skill in the room. We might call you Maestro.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, there we go then.
Oh, yes.
Maestro is here with us today.
Okay. Right.
So shall we start the episode?
Oh, we got
we do news catch up.
oh, before that, we got a bit of an unusual setup today because of the nature of
Hello,
things.
camera's over
So,
somewhere else. So
yeah.
YouTubers, hello.
I probably won't be looking much at the camera for our.
You didn't tell me there was going to be a camera.
There isn't.
You can see it. It's like right in front of you.
It's a little gadget.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Anyway, but that'll be irrelevant for our dear listeners.
Oh, he's got this thing about whispering in their ears. It's called ASMR. Have you heard of it?
No,
We're
not having
That's
this.
going to be really annoying in the end.
We are not having this discussion with my nan.
Yes, we are.
No.
ASMR.
No.
What does ASMR stand for?
No, I don't
It's-
know.
It's
I don't know specifically, but basically it's sort of whispering and making weird sounds.
Okay.
it's not it's not only a sexual thing. It's an audio stimulation thing. In fact, my Calm app, my meditation app, has some ASMR bedtime stories in it.
Have we
Where people-
started yet?
Yeah. This is the podcast.
Yeah.
Welcome to my life.
Bad.
Oh dear.
This is going to be a good episode. I'm looking forward to this. So yeah, it's a bit less awkward perhaps because there's more of us. This is our studio. Welcome to our. I'm looking forward to this because I've been so busy with doing stuff over the week with music and stuff that it's just like this is my kind of little space of sanity now.
Sanity.
Well, it's just like I've got some beer. That's kind of what I mean.
Anyway, so yeah, news catch up.
What's been going on?
Tory leadership race. I think it's still just they haven't moved on to anything else yet. It's still, it's. I'm not sure what's happened since the last time we recorded, but it's now Boris Johnson and Jeremy Hunt that are in the running.
And a lot of the Conservative party members, well, not party members, ministers, are thinking about not backing Boris Johnson.
I did read something the other day about if there was a general election right now, the way the statistics are looking, that actually the Lib Dems would be likely to win.
Yeah.
Because
I would place them as a second place.
well, partly because a lot of the Labour voters wouldn't be happy about
They want to go
backing.
more central, don't they?
Leave it for a little while and they might
Corbyn
come
at
up
the
even
moment.
more.
It's uncertain, but I think right now it would be a Labour minority government,
Yeah,
but with Lib Dems
but
as second.
it's certainly not a two-way split anymore.
But I would
No,
imagine the Brexit Party in a general election, if they were to stand in a general election, would take a lot of the votes from Labour and the
But
Conservatives.
the problem with that
Yeah.
is what else are they going to do? It's like they've got a whole country to deal with, not just one issue.
Yeah, well, that's why I don't think they'd win. I think they would just take a lot of
But-
seats. Not a lot of seats, but they'd become second in a lot of constituencies. I
Yeah.
think.
Well, hopefully not, because
It's all
last thing you want
tactical
is-
now, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Oh, politics is.
Anyway, have we finished the introduction yet? No.
Well, yeah, we're on to the news roundup.
News roundup,
do a
We
bit,
tend to
kind of-
start
Yeah.
with sort of catching up on the.
We did used to have a news dedicated podcast, but it all got a bit too much and my brain fell apart. So we've cut things back a bit and we now do a bit of news at the beginning of our Breaking Bollocks.
Which one of you is John Craven then?
What?
I've met him.
Oh.
I shook his hand, or he shook my hand actually. John Craven.
Who the fuck is
Really?
John Craven?
Yeah,
Yes.
He invented Newsround.
I got a music prize at school,
did.
But then
and
that's all.
and he because it was a posh school full of toffee
Posh
twats.
Ooh, laddie flipping down.
He gave out the prizes, and I had to go up, and he shook my hand.
All right, so.
which was about as exciting as everything else that happened at that school. Actually, one of the most exciting things that happened to me at that school was taking part in a medieval banquet, and I'm a bit worried about the fact that I said, "No, why should I be worried about it?" Because it was wearing green tights and a tabard. That I was a minstrel, and I don't mean a
Chocolate.
yeah. And we had to, every time we crossed in front of the king, we had to stop and do a bow or a curtsy or something. I can't remember what it was. It was some kind of
Homage.
and he would wave his chicken drumstick at you as if to say, "Yes, you are my loyal subject. Please don't." I know it would be me. "Please don't behead me, sir, because I didn't do something I should have done. Can we move on, please? Because I'm running out of nonsense to say. Please, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Help me. Help me."
Any more
I don't have
news?
to continue with this.
Any more news?
I think the G20 summit was recently.
Really?
Oh, Trump's gone to North Korea. He's actually in North Korea now.
he?
Yeah, he's
I know
crossed
he
the
went
border.
to South Korea.
Maybe they'll lock him up in one of those prison camps they've got.
Well, I read on the BBC News website this morning that he's the first, and God knows how long, to cross the border into North Korea now. He's
He's
actually
gone to see his twin brother, wasn't he?
I thought they'd talked about that, but I wasn't sure if there's any official.
Well, they did, but obviously you have to talk about something before you do it.
Yeah.
In those situations, and now he's been and gone and done it, and he's gone and done it.
I imagine just sort of like stepping over the border, not like full tour. Because it
It's
would
just
be a
like
bit
sort
weird.
of-
What? Look, I can step over the
Step
border.
back, yeah. In,
Going
out,
back, you
in,
know.
But I know
out,
last
shake it on the
year
belt.
they did I think it's president of South Korea.
They did.
They like did a handshake across the border, and then I think they stepped over onto each side. Kim Jong Un
Jesus.
Those
I mean, God.
and
Borders and
President Moon. I can't remember his full name.
God's sake, let's be all symbolic and step onto another bit of dirt and make it look like
I
we're
mean, they've been at war for like the last 60 years.
yeah, but that's all because of the fucking border anyway. It's like, let's be symbolic and just step over the thing that we've been
Actually,
fighting over for.
It's all because of the Cold War, but yeah, that's why the border. Whatever.
Isn't it quite warm there though?
I don't know.
They had the Winter Olympics in South Korea, didn't they? It must get cold somewhere.
Did they?
Yes,
Yeah.
They had the Summer Olympics there.
No, that was ages ago.
that was
the
in
last one.
1988.
Yeah, that's just,
The last Winter Olympics was in South Korea.
what? So what's the significance of it being in 1988? Is it a lot warmer
Well,
now?
It was
Because-
quite a long time ago that they had the Olympics. Or something.
The Winter Olympics was last year that they had it there.
They have them every 4 years.
No, you,
Oh, was it last year? I thought.
Yeah.
When was it Sochi?
2014.
Ah.
The Olympic Committee are going for dictatorships, obviously, at the moment.
But it was in South
For Dick what?
Korea.
Dictatorships.
It was in South
Oh,
Korea.
okay, South Korea's okay, yeah. So.
And Russia's technically a democracy. It just doesn't really work.
Where was the Summer Olympics last time? Was that Japan? It was.
No.
Oh no.
It's in Japan next year.
Oh, that's going to be high tech. That'll be.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be. No, they're gonna have a really good opening ceremony, I
Yeah.
think. with
That's the best
loads of
bit.
AI.
I enjoy that really.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I do enjoy some of the other stuff as well. Jesus Christ, slow down! Nobody's throwing up again.
It's fine.
This is worrying me.
What, the beer?
It's still just one bottle. I'm
All
just.
right, you can take it.
Yeah, but he can't.
I can take one beer.
Then what happens?
Then he has another and another, and then he
Turns
throws
into
up.
a unicorn or something.
That's the national animal of Scotland.
Really?
Yeah,
Unicorn?
yeah, actually, really.
I like that.
Anyway,
Personal news?
That's
Anyone?
unreality then.
I think I covered. Been on a youth orchestra course over last weekend. I think I covered that in your podcast.
You
though.
did. Yes, go and listen to that.
So
When was
12?
that conversation we had? No, that was in the last episode that's gone out, so that's already out.
Yeah.
Number 12, Another One Bites the Dust. Better Call Paul.
Oh, which we had.
Plug. Shameless plug.
We had a very long, awkward conversation about why you named it Another One Bites the Dust.
It wasn't awkward for me because it made sense to me.
It was awkward for everyone else.
Well, that's not my problem, is it?
Yeah, because
Right, okay. If you've just been recording a clip at a wedding and the couple obviously have just tied the
Say
knot.
another one bites the dust.
Yeah, and you come out and you go, and the first thing you say is, "Oh, well, another one bites the dust." Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
See? But well, maybe
you're
this is...
obviously just both cynical pricks then.
You should... you just... You can't see facial expressions on podcasts, by the way. You just called your nan a cynical prick.
Fine.
Do you know?
That's a matter of opinion.
Had some beer.
What you see, I had to interview her on the way to Fraserburgh because I was actually playing her part of the previous episode, and I used the C word in the episode. So I was like, let's switch this off, and I'll just.
I didn't say agreed with it or not. I just said I understood why you said
What it meant, yeah.
I
Well,
understood
okay then.
why you know.
I wasn't looking for approval. I was just looking for
I've
understanding.
only ever heard bite the dust referred to somebody dying.
Yeah, well, that's the point. It's kind of a death. Marriage is kind of a death of freedom.
Hence why I say they're obviously
necessarily.
both.
Probably
cynical
not
pricks.
the conversation you want to have with your wife.
Yeah,
Well, he's just called his nan a cynical prick, so
fine.
it seems to be going round.
I give you lots of freedom. You get to sleep downstairs whenever you like.
I'm resigning from being nan.
Shall we just move on?
Yes.
Stop digging the hole. Right. Have we gotten rid of all the news?
Feel trapped
So
in
far.
this relationship.
What as my mum?
No, it's his nan.
It's just going to be the most bizarre.
Yeah. Right.
We might get interrupted halfway through because we're expecting Niana and Lorien to arrive back at some point, but
Oh, are we?
yeah, but not for a while.
This is your responsibility, not mine.
What is?
This child, this young man.
Where did that come from? That was a bit left field.
When he's drinking beer, it's his fault.
Who? Yeah, we're both drinking beer, so whose fault
Yeah.
did that make it?
You.
Are we going to get onto the subject, do you think?
Go on then, what's the subject?
What episode
Explain
number
to
is it for a start?
It is episode 38.
I thought it might be.
Oh, well done. You can count. Anyway, on to the episode subject.
Which is?
Reality.
Whose reality?
Who? It's not a person.
Whose? Your reality?
A reality
My
of
reality.
whom?
Yeah.
Well,
that's going to be part of it.
reality as a concept is. We can discuss whatever aspects of. It's just a title, and whatever it brings to your mind is what we
Yeah, it's like some
we discuss.
Because my reality might be different from your reality.
Your reality is definitely different from anyone else's reality
I see. Okay.
because you have a different central nervous system to everybody else.
I won't deny that.
Okay, right.
But then reality is possibly two separate things. In
There's
terms-
another
you could-
discussion to be had whether reality is subjective or not anyway.
Well, that's about definition, which is always, every single podcast we do, it depends how you define it. So there's the reality which is, which could be out there and immutable, dependent, like completely just the way it is and not affected by the observer, if you like.
Well,
we have no proof that it's there, though.
It is affected by the observer because of quantum mechanics.
Sound like Carl, your uncle.
Well, it's true. Right. Waves are arranged in little packets of energy called quanta.
Yeah, I know.
But if you observe it in so that if
slit
you imagine it's
experiment.
like a wave going up and down, if you observe it when it's down,
I've got a
then
feeling we
it's
might be
different to when you observe it when it's up.
Yeah, but light behaves as both, doesn't it?
Well, it behaves as it's wave-particle duality. I've been reading A Brief History of Time.
Have you done the slit experiment thing?
Well, I've not done.
Do you
it
know about the
personally.
slit
Don't know
experiment?
about physics.
That one kind of blows your mind a little bit. There must be a YouTube video on that. We could maybe stop and have a, or maybe we can just talk about it.
Probably, I can explain it. Basically, you imagine a board with two really, I think they have to be pretty close together slits, and then uh, electrons, you know what an electron is, right? Are fired out of something. And what you would expect is, because you'd expect them to behave as particles, is that it would go either one way or the other per each electron, but it actually goes through both.
Right. Is this like when people make films called about on the sliding doors thing? If this happens, this will happen, and if
Have you seen Sliding Doors?
I have not. I don't know what it is.
It's a sliding.
I'm wondering whether I haven't seen Love Actually, but there were aspects of that when you told me about the plot of that reminded me of Sliding Doors.
It's the latest.
We never got around to it.
Jeffrey Archer's
Right.
latest book is based on the sliding doors thing.
Yeah. Well, actually, we're going to be watching Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse later, so that will be. Yeah, there's stuff, isn't there?
Very specific.
It's like
Well, what I suppose I was trying to bring to mind was the outside realm of reality, or the universe, independently of the observer, if you like, as opposed to the reality which we experience. Because in that sense, your reality is, I mean, you when you think of the universe, you're not actually thinking of what's out there in the outside world. Everything that you know, everything you've experienced, and everything about the universe is contained in your brain. So that's the reality that you're experiencing. It may be affected by what's outside of it, but your experience, your version of the universe, if you like, is inside
its effect
you.
on me.
Yeah. So that's your reality, I suppose. But then there's, like I say, you'd said about the outside. You've stopped talking.
I'm just observing.
That's having an effect on me.
You quantum particle.
I feel so small and insignificant.
Well, so when we're talking about reality, there's a number of things that can be brought up, because there's a sort of small scale version of. I think we're going to have a podcast on this at some point, and I know pretty soon. I'm not sure what episode we're going to have a podcast on journalism, but there's the aspect of within the world that most of us live in, what is truth? Yeah,
Well,
it's a loaded question.
I find it quite interesting that throughout this whole series of podcasts that the vast majority of the episodes do come down to definitions, and the whole thing is basically about language, isn't it?
Yeah, which is why it's interesting that.
Because really, language is a way of making sense of and managing our journey through this soup of particles and atoms and molecules.
I can't remember what it's called, but
It's like a framework that
there's a theory that the language that you speak changes how you actually perceive the world completely.
Or is it the other way around? The way you perceive the world will affect your language.
To a certain extent, but I think it's more the other way.
Yeah.
It's going to be cyclical, I think, isn't it? It's going to be.
And this is, I guess, slight spoilers for Arrival, which I have not seen, but I recently watched a video that spoiled it.
Have you not seen Arrival?
No.
Oh, it's ace.
This was a video about Brexit. So it's weird how they relate, but it's basically sort of, spoiler alert, they discovered that the aliens, because it's like aliens landing, use a language that is sort of cyclical, but they don't have the same perception of time as humans. So,
Well, the first time I came across that concept was in an episode of Star Trek.
yeah.
But does the perception of it actually change it?
Well, we through our learning during our lifetimes so far, as human beings, perhaps of necessity, in order to make sense of our journey through life, if you like, we tend to think of time as a linear concept. But does that limit our potential?
Have you broken down?
No, the line broke. Do you know what I mean? Well,
right. So on a small scale, I think we should probably just get this out of the way.
right. No, I've got to say this before it goes out of my head. Right, the linear time thing. Right, everyone, if you think about it, because of light speed, everything that comes to you as an individual observer, however far away it is, the further away it is, the further in the past you're observing it. But when that light is coming towards you, basically everything you see and everything you experience from outside of yourself is already in the past.
Yeah.
Which makes the entirety of the universe you perceive
It's like
a cone.
Yeah.
And you are the tip of that cone. You are the... Are you being disgusting about temporal mechanics?
No,
No.
I think it's a Russell Howard thing. Basically, whenever a euphemism's said, you go, meow. I'm not sure.
I think this comes from the brief history of time, actually. What about the stuff that's outside of that cone? What about the stuff that's going on in the next galaxy right now? It's not part of our observable universe until the light reaches us. So does it exist? Because the effects can't affect us in any way.
It didn't affect us, it didn't mean to say it isn't there.
But like with the sun, if the sun exploded now, we wouldn't know anything about it for another 8 minutes.
Right.
Does that mean that in our observable universe it hasn't happened? Well, it does in our observable universe. Does that mean, is our universe confined to that which we are physically capable of observing? Does it matter if it exists outside of that causality cone, if you like?
Depends who you are. Some people think it matters, some people think it doesn't.
One step further on from that, how does quantum entanglement fit into that?
Oh, that's different though, because quantum entanglement can mean that things are kind of going faster than light, but they're not.
But effects can be.
Yeah. But
do you know what quantum entanglement is?
No.
It's fairly rare and mainly important in places where gravity is very strong,
right?
Like a black hole, we're gonna get onto religion because I think we kind of have to. We do in every podcast. The Big Bang. Because that would be a place where there's a lot of gravity because it's very dense. Point of infinite density, although I think that's been debunked.
What, the point of infinite density thing? Yeah,
being the source of the Big Bang.
See, what happens to me when you're talking about the Big Bang, and it's probably... it is treated as a religious kind of question in some ways, is when people ask what happened, what caused the Big Bang, what happened before.
That. What caused the Big Bang?
But for me, the Big Bang is not just the beginning of space, it's also the beginning of time. So there wasn't a before.
Well,
it's like...
we don't know that.
We don't. But that's how my mind copes with that fact. I mean, it's like asking about this table that we're sat around now. Which part of the table is over there? Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, none, because the table is confined to the area that it inhabits. Just as the universe in space and time concepts is limited. Time didn't begin.
But at some point in time, the table might have been over there. So if we perceive time differently, you could say, oh, it was there in such and such a year at 12 p.m.
Got moved.
Or, yeah.
Because
and there's
it's an interesting thing looking at 4D objects.
Well, there's a very curious relationship between space and time, isn't there? Like when certainly when you're looking at gravitational fields as well.
I'm sorry if a lot of this is going over your heads because you're not a physicsy person.
But that's not always necessarily a bad thing, because I think sometimes thinking outside the box is more difficult if you're tied to.
If you're aware of what the confines of the box are.
Yeah. And sometimes the most revolutionary advancements can be made when you're not aware of the rules that have been laid down by. Because there are aspects of, the thing about science is that it acknowledges that there is always going to be stuff we don't know.
But I guess the sort of point of that. So, do you believe that a Big Bang happened?
I don't know. To me, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
What matters now, what matters is what's here and now, and how it happened is important, but here and now is more important.
I'd have to say, in terms of reality, if we're telling the truth, we all don't know.
Yeah.
So what the difference is there is...
Does it matter to you, or does it matter to me?
To some people it does. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I can see that, yeah.
It's possible to have a high probability of that being what happened.
Yeah.
To know that there's a high probability.
But you can never know anything 100%. You can know 99.9% that it's extremely likely, but there's no guarantee that we actually exist here.
But
in a physical sense.
In terms of scientific purposes, we say that knowing is beyond a reasonable doubt. It's been proven.
But how?
Have you seen The Matrix?
No. What?
Oh my God!
What I think it's important is that
oh my God! Sorry, I'm shocked.
How it affects now and how it affects the future is more important than the past.
Okay.
What I've gone.
I can understand that, but at the same time, I can't prove that the past actually happened, but I derive a lot of my behavior and actions and decisions from the experience that past provided. So in that sense, it can't be changed, but at the same time, it is important.
Affected you, yeah. The Matrix, anyway. Oh, I haven't seen it, so go on, tell me.
So you're going to be forced to watch the whole trilogy at some point.
Okay. That's fine.
You'll love it. It's quite confusing actually when you get onto the second and third films. And Nick, shut up. They are good films. Thank you.
It's a Netflix reference.
It's very. In some ways, it seems to be very modern, but it's in actual fact there is a lot of possible scientific truth in it, isn't there? But there's also a lot of kind of what you might think of as spiritual truth and metaphysical kind of. It is about what is reality, really, isn't it? The whole thing. It's kind of. And there are a lot of metaphors about what the Matrix is a framework, basically.
Would I take something different from this film from what you take from it?
Probably.
Quite likely, yeah. And I think I can certainly take different opposing things from it by switching my mindset, if you like.
So it makes you think.
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
So,
yeah.
Basically, the idea of it, and I'm sorry if I'm spoiling it, but it was made in the 90s, so you've had your time.
So what?
The idea of it is basically the Matrix is a simulation of
reality.
Yeah. So it takes this.
Imagine if everything that you know of as your life is not real. You're inside a simulation.
I want to know that.
Well, that's one of the main questions that the film asks, and there are characters who are given
some people might not want to know.
There are people who are given choices.
Within the simulation called Mr. Anderson
Right.
is contacted by people outside of the simulation and then is asked whether he wants to take the blue pill or the red pill.
That's not Mr. Anderson. Yes, it is. Sorry. Carry on.
Anyway, okay, don't matter. Carry on.
The blue pill would keep him in the simulation.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it said, but I think it basically means that he'll forget that he was ever told about this.
Yeah.
The red pill, though, would take him out of the simulation.
And open his eyes to reality.
Yeah. Which it turns out that some machines have taken over humanity and are using people as batteries and keeping them in a simulation.
But isn't that what they say is going to happen in the future anyway?
Well, it's sort of...
You could argue in a philosophical sense it already is. Because although, I mean, it's in the film, it's kind of starkly sort of explicitly shown as actual human bodies having energy harvested from them.
Yeah.
But what you could say is that the matrix of what we know of as society derives its power from the human input that it farms, if you like, from its subjects. And that society is kind of run by machines now. It's, it's the internet and the
well, I was going to
world.
say it's like in the 90s, maybe it was batteries, but in the future it'll be technology.
That would be an interesting thing, actually, whether or not the Matrix is something that could or should be remade. I think, there's been some criticism of some of the computer graphics in it.
I mean, Keanu Reeves hasn't aged, so you wouldn't notice.
Yeah. Well, they're making a Bill and Ted 3. You've seen Bill and Ted, haven't you? Yeah, yeah. Oh, you've seen Bill and Ted, have you?
Yeah, but I would think... I can't remember which one's Bill and which one's Ted, but...
No, I have that problem as well.
The one that isn't Keanu Reeves is probably aged quite a bit.
But, I mean, I think it's set years after the first two films. There is a rumour, actually, that the film might begin with them being sacked from the Bill and Ted show at Halloween Horror Nights. Because the Bill and Ted show was like a central kind of show for years and years in the Halloween Horror Nights thing. So, because apparently I don't know if it's the producer or the director has had something to do with the production of that show. But I don't know that much about it, so I'm going to shut up now because I've probably already...
Did they ever do a survey from people who had watched The Matrix or whatever as how many people would take the red pill and how many people would take the blue pill?
They probably have. I'll try and see that.
Scott can't watch it.
Why?
Because it freaks him out.
Well, maybe I can't. Then.
Scott being my friend that I've referenced from college.
So did he get so far into it and then he couldn't watch anymore?
Well, I don't know. No. I think he has seen it, but he won't watch the second and third
Anything
films,
like it, yeah.
because of it panics him.
So
he gets anxious
take the
about
pill
it.
that kept him inside the thing then?
Yeah, well, basically by refusing to kind of entertain that concept, he's willingly staying in that.
Yeah, I don't know what I'd do. I don't know.
The thing is, though, you can actually do both. As far as I'm concerned, you don't have to take the blue. If I was given the choice, I'd take them both.
You're not allowed, are you? I mean,
well,
you might take
why not?
one in one part of your life and a few years
if you
later
define
on,
your own
you might take the other one.
reality, you can take both. Why can you not see the real world as it is, the framework that we exist within, choose to take part in it, but at the same time observe it and
So you're out of it then, really?
Yeah, but you're also accepting it as a thing.
Oh, yeah. But you're looking at it from the outside.
Conclusive. But it is interesting looking at this. This hasn't got any survey results. It is saying that a lot of people do prefer the blue pill.
Is that the one where you stay inside?
Yeah, they prefer the comfort of the world that they know rather than... Because, as you'd imagine, one that's been taken over machines isn't a particularly happy reality to live in.
Do you know what pisses me off, though, with all of this kind of... and I think we saw it in the world of sci-fi before sort of the 70s, I think, was where it sort of started to turn around a little bit. was this kind of nightmare future where technology or robots or space travel, or there's always some kind of threat to existence, and it's like I think it's probably the fear of the unknown thing. But if you look at sci-fi films before round about the time Star Wars came out, it's all pretty scary as hell. You know, it's all about people basically just being like humanity being destroyed, basically, or people being like adrift in space and at the mercy of some robots or aliens, or you know, it's all terrifying stuff, rather than that kind of. But since then, I say Star Wars, but maybe even Star Trek in the 60s was probably the pioneer of it, because they began to look at the potential for an optimistic future of the species through exploration.
It's probably the explorers and the adventurous people that would take the red pill.
I mean, Star Wars is actually historic rather than future anyway, but carry on.
A lot of things that have been in those kind of films have actually come true since then anyway.
But that's fiction. That's how things work.
Yeah.
You know, we carry around with us now basically the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, or like the communicator pads that they had in
I want to see The Matrix now.
Well, we can watch it later if you like.
I'd really love to see it, but
No, it's interesting.
I would certainly suggest seeing the first film.
Yeah.
I mean, I would see all three of them. The second and third can get quite confusing, because the thing with it is The Matrix is in essence a computer simulation. So a lot of the characters which aren't actually real humans in the real world are computer programs that are put in the Matrix to control the characters that are in it, and that can get quite confusing. But it's very. I don't actually think that the whole story itself is incompatible with a lot of people's religious views, because I know how Nan relates with religion, and it to me it's quite a hippie kind of version, if you like. I don't think it excludes any of the scientific principles that we hold. I think you see it a lot as what it is, basically, which is historic metaphor, but it's based on. I mean, what you think of as God, I think exists, but I choose not to personify it.
Yeah.
I know how you view the universe. You choose to pursue it through a form of religious worship, if you like. I choose not to, but it's essentially the same thing, is that there is an everything. And that's what we're talking about, is the cosmos. That's the same thing as you think of as God. You choose to give it a name and you choose to worship it, but to me it's just the cosmos. It's everything.
It's because
reality.
I need someone in control.
Right.
Now that's interesting, actually.
So it's sort of giving it a will that, you know, something is making this all happen.
But that I find very interesting, because I mean, obviously this is not the same across the board for everyone who decides to be religious.
No,
but
I'm a bit unconventional like that.
But the idea of needing somebody to be in control,
to make, you know, so everything will be all right for you eventually.
Well, yeah. I suppose this is where it begins to approach a point where I would be careful about what I say in case I upset you, because you know, neither of us knows what the reality is. We have our beliefs, but to me, we're all going to end up in the same boat anyway. Everybody dies. We all return to the universe in a physical and energy sense.
Yeah.
You know, what I am now isn't the same physical or energy-based matter that was 10 years ago me. So is that person now dead?
No.
So what we're talking about are you talking about a linear kind of soul, maybe?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't need to know. That's the thing.
So I don't think everybody follows that logic in religion, though, do they?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm a bit
Wait, I've been
unconventional.
waiting to jump in with this for like 10 minutes. So it's interesting. It hasn't got any actual results on any sort of survey, which is annoying, but it has got, it's an introduction to philosophy, and it's got a parallel on the Matrix with the red pill, blue pill thing between the tree of knowledge or the tree of life in Genesis.
Yeah.
The tree of knowledge being the red pill and the tree of life being the blue pill.
Right. See. Wow. So there's nothing new then.
Hang on. I don't know what the tree of knowledge is.
It's the when you eat the apple off the tree, you become
That's the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Well,
That's not the same thing as the tree of knowledge.
Tree of knowledge. It is the same
well, that's
thing.
what
No,
they're
it's
saying
not.
it is.
But knowledge of good and evil is a concept where you define that which is right and wrong. It doesn't.
But
Pure knowledge doesn't have a
Think of the
concept
tree
of
of
that.
knowledge as shorthand for that, because it's a bit long-winded.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Right. Genesis
I think it's important.
3:5. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened,
Yeah.
and you will be like God, knowing good and evil.
Well, you might know good and evil, but I don't know if you'd be like God.
This is something recently that I've sort of tried to reconcile, because with not being religious, you sort of, unless you're committed to just saying, oh, there's no meaning to anything, so whatever the fuck, you sort of have to make your own meaning of things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's
Yeah,
just sort of
otherwise
like, well, what's the point of being here?
Yeah.
So I've sort of had it as my purpose is to try as best as I can to learn from others and to teach to others, whether I want to or not, but to sort of just have this mutual sort of betterment within discussion rather than having it as a competition to win.
I hesitate to say this, but that does sound quite religious.
Well, it's sort of where you get into, I think a lot of religions have parts of the philosophy, right?
Yeah.
It's just ascribing that to some deity that I don't agree with because I don't see the evidence for that.
Maybe it's so that some people can understand it better.
Yeah, it
know.
does help to have
Yeah.
a personality there.
Yeah.
We have a visitation.
Anyway,
Yeah, we kind of delved into religion there. I would say the thing about the soul, though, because I was going to bring in Star Stuff at this point because I know that she has a particular.
So
No. What? I'm surprised to hear you say that because I know that you've got some psychology.
I would be ironic.
What is it that you that there's a concept of something or other? I can't remember what it is, but it's something. Monistic, is it?
monastic.
No, it's something about there not the concept of there not being a separate soul.
It's just kind of, it's your mind. It's your brain.
Yeah, it's your mind, yeah.
Right. So, but the difference in what you believe is that will continue after you die.
Yeah.
Whereas
Biological
As what?
psychologists
I don't know.
say no.
Might
Sorry?
be-
Biological psychologists will say that once your body is dead, or your mind is then dead, because it is your brain. That's biological psychology.
yeah, but I
It
mean,
comes
there's
from
all
the
sorts
biology.
of different things that come into considering that in terms of especially the concept of linear time. Because if, as we were discussing earlier, there's no such thing as time before the universe began.
Well,
we don't know that.
yeah.
We don't, but if that's a possibility,
The point
is
of
there
that
such a time? Is there such a time as before we were born?
The point of that is sort of what's, as with the cone model before, about perceiving things as like, for example, a galaxy 4.5 million light years away. What you're seeing there now, if you used a telescope, happened 4.5 million years ago because the light's just reaching you now. But because no one here can actually observe that, within science it's sort of like, well, the influences won't be here yet because nothing's faster than the speed of light. So it doesn't really matter what's outside of this cone. The same
See,
with,
that's the thing, right?
there might be something before the universe, but is it relevant to anything because this is everything?
I know it's difficult because you're talking about something which is quite an advanced sort of concept in terms of physics, but that stuff, to me, if a galaxy is 4.5 light years away,
I would hope it's not, because that's actually like the nearest star system.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I would think like the now for them, it just this is where my brain starts to fry, and I think it's because of our learned concept of time. It doesn't, because we need to function. Our learned natural sort of way of thinking of time doesn't actually fit reality.
Start on 4D shapes earlier.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah.
Basically, so you know how a 3D version of a square is basically sort of like a square on each side, so it's a cube then.
Yeah.
You imagine a 4D shape that's like 6 cubes folding in on themselves, but not breaking any...
Hang on, I completely just lost the plot when you started on that.
Right, so if you imagine, to make a cube, you can make a 2D net of a cube by laying out, it's in a sort of cross formation with 6 squares.
Yeah.
You fold them in on each other to make a cube, and now you've got a 3D shape.
Yeah. Why do you have to fold them in on each other, though? Why do you have to start with 2D to make 3D?
Well, this is a sort of way, because whilst we can comprehend time, but not very well, 4D shapes are difficult. So if you imagine...
My problem with that concept is that, for me, a cube isn't a 2D surface. It's the whole space contained within that
That's
area.
what it becomes. It's sort of all of those squares folding in on each other, and then...
Yeah, but all those squares folding in on each other don't create the space that is inside that shape.
Well, it does effectively. It's like once that's sort of sealed up, that's the space there. So, you know, once it's all together, then you have volume.
Yeah, but all it's doing is separating the volume inside from the volume outside.
Right. If you imagine the same concept, though, with 6 cubes laid out, and then them being folded in each other, that doesn't fit well with our brains, because you can't do that with...
No, because you can't lay 6 cubes out in 2 dimensions.
We're laying it out in 3 dimensions, so if you imagine like a cube there, cube there, cube there, so sort of that sort of thing, and then you fold it in on each other, that's the 4th dimension time, because it can't happen all at once.
I think for me the fallacy there, though, is the thinking about folding 2 dimensions up into a 3-dimensional shape, because it's like, well, that's not really what you're doing when you go from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions, because you're introducing a concept that isn't inherent in the 2-dimensional model. So it's kind of outside of the concept of 2D. So you can't...
difficult to perceive that for us. Folding in 3D shape.
That's what I mean, though. I can't think 3D in terms of the 2D that makes it up. I just think of 3D as what it is, because I'm familiar with what 3D is. But when you say about 4D,
but
it's not time sometimes.
When you fold in the cubes there,
all
those cubes can be there at one point or another if another one moves out of the way, but because we have a linear perception of time, they can't all be there at once.
Oh, right, okay, so you've got these 6 cubes, you can fold them into the same 3D space, but they can't be there at the same time.
Yeah, but if we were a species that could perhaps comprehend 4 dimensions at one time, then perhaps wouldn't be an issue.
But that initially gives me a taste or a flavour of what I perceive when I'm thinking of these. Is it different quarks or particles or something? There's something in particle physics where symmetry is like half or something, where you have to turn something over twice. Yeah,
spin.
Yeah, you have to turn something over twice for it to be back in the same position it was.
Yeah, it gets kind of confusing because our brains aren't wired to think like that.
But that wiring comes from
then
our
you get into
acquisition of knowledge, doesn't it?
and then you get into the multiverse, which gets even more confusing because
Am I going to be able to follow Spider-Man later on when I've been drinking beer?
they tend to dumb that sort of thing down.
That's true.
But sort of, so our universe has 3 spatial dimensions:
Yeah.
length, height, and width. No, not width. Depth.
The
and
universe we
1 temporal
right.
dimension. But the idea is, I think the easiest way to understand it is there's actually 10 dimensions if you consider other possible worlds or possible realities. Which
yeah, but I can't start getting lost after sort of 4, I think.
Yeah, but then coming back to the slit experiment before, wave particle duality, the quarks, which are what make up protons, and neutrons, which are what
You look
make
like you're
up
trying to hold your head in.
atoms. They're actually sort of like, if you imagine a circle made up of a wave, so it's sort of like
Yeah.
it's
Well, that.
but it's kind of a bit bouncy and kind of half real, half not. It's really confusing.
Yeah, but that is the. It's almost like a gear mechanism, isn't it?
Yeah, but
It's a wheel that draws out a sine wave.
it's sort of, it's more like an elastic band, I would say. If you imagine, because an elastic band is sort of circular, but you can sort of bend it
Yeah.
multiple ways, and that's generally what quarks do. I don't fully understand it myself.
If anyone out there's lost,
but
don't ask me for directions.
it's sort of like in our universe, it bends a certain way, but
Meow.
the exact same particles could be in another universe, but they'd bend a different way, so you get a completely different result.
So
It's the sliding doors thing again.
if you bend one way in this universe, there might be another you in a different universe that's bending the other way.
Perhaps it could be a mirror universe, yes. But then you get into reality, and whether when we define reality, we're just talking about this reality or all realities. And even if we are talking about all realities, are all realities even relevant? Because they don't really affect ours very much unless quantum entanglement passes through different realities.
Oh, lordy me.
This is what I'm thinking about at 2 a.m. when I can't get to sleep.
Well, no wonder you can't get to sleep.
Take a pill.
Just make sure it's the red one.
Well,
No, the blue one will put you to sleep.
yeah.
Red one
Okay.
will keep you awake.
Can't there be a purple one?
Now, I know...
He does this. He sweeps my comments under the carpet like they're irrelevant.
One.
Don't pretend to be giving it serious thought.
No, I am. It's interesting because there may be certain parts of your life that you just sort of like, well, I kind of know truly when you
I
really...
suppose this is what I meant when I was talking about
Sometimes
taking the red pill and the blue pill. It's like, well, you can't do both, but why can you not take a purple one that has aspects of each pill contained, but not simultaneously, you know, I don't know, maybe not a compromise, but
But there are uncomfortable
coexistence.
truths in everyone's life, I think, that we refuse to believe because it's just too painful. And some we might not actually be able to recognise.
Maestro likes pain, apparently.
Very profound.
But it's sort of, yeah. I'm not trying to insult you or anything, but
Where are you going to?
Yes, yeah.
your blue pelt might be your religion. It might be that's the comfortable. That's your truth, basically. That's comfortable and it makes sense to you. So it's just sort of like, well, what's the point in believing anything else? Because it's not really going to make a difference to anyone else anyway.
But it might.
It might in some way. It depends how seriously you take it, because some people do take their religion very seriously and very to.
Doesn't mean you're not
the word.
open-minded. Well, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that I'm not open-minded.
See, my and again, I'm not saying this to upset you, but one of my big kind of bugbears, I suppose, is that if, say, for instance, I've had a lot of troubles in the past, I know, or I'm pretty sure that you will have prayed about that. And I actually find it quite insulting that you might think that it's the power of you doing that has turned things around for me, when I've done a hell of a lot myself
Yeah.
for that. But you probably, I don't know, but I would imagine you probably believe that. And again, I suppose it comes down to whether or not it matters, because to you,
But you might believe that.
Your happiness matters
Yeah.
to me.
yeah, I know, but
You might believe that, although that is himself doing that, God or whatever deity has put that extra bit of power into it, or created.
sticking a head over the parapet there.
I don't think Nan thinks I'm God.
I don't think the men think the same as women anyway, do they? Really?
No, I don't know what they think.
We have to bring gender into this. We've done this on another episode.
Well, they don't, do they? I mean,
Would you
it's
think
a
I've got a
fact.
man's brain?
It's a fact.
You have when it comes to finding the cheese in the fridge.
Oh, Jesus, hang on. We just opened a whole kettle of fish here.
You just threw that in on
I heard
purpose.
something about a fridge over there, but Theo just seems to be trying to hold his
That's a
calm
woman
here.
that would throw that in on purpose.
Oh my God.
I mean, technically, you get into discussions of gender fluidity, and this comes into the definition of gender and how that is different.
It's almost like we're doing a greatest hits here.
But it's sort of like, well, no two women do think the same either, so no woman or man would think the same. And even if you are a gender fluid person, do you think the same when you are not performing, but sort of presenting male as you're presenting female, or do you think differently?
I think when you meet your soulmate, it doesn't matter whether they're male or female anyway.
But you have to believe in the concept of a soulmate for that to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's.
I don't know, but Star Stuff, can I ask you? I'm pretty sure I know the answer. I mean, I don't know about you, but I personally think that both of us could find someone else who was just as good for each other. I don't think there's only one you or me for each other. Do you know what I mean?
No.
I mean, it would be a different relationship.
It would be statistically not impossible, but very, the chance that in 9 billion people there's one who's the right person for you. There's going to be lots of people that you can get on with in various different ways.
Yeah, and I think when you're working on a
But if
relationship,
you find
over a
somebody
long
that you
period
can
of
get on
time-
with, then that's great.
when you're working on a relationship over a long period of time, you kind of make that happen, don't you?
Yeah.
Together,
idea is
which is
that-
what makes the relationship a special thing. 'Cause
The
you've done it
exact
together.
right set of circumstances have happened so that you guys have met in the right way and you've given yourself the right first impressions. And, if Muse didn't exist, this relationship wouldn't exist.
Oh, here we go in butterflies and hurricanes now.
Oh, yeah.
Literally,
Chaos theory.
Yeah.
If whatever
Do you know
created
what?
Muse
Though?
didn't
That
exist.
really interests me in terms of you think.
So in
like,
a way, you are perfect for each other because the right circumstances have led you
think
to
about
meet
this.
each
Okay,
other.
I'm gonna blow your mind now. Butterflies and hurricanes is a concept of a butterfly flapping its wings on one side of the planet,
Yeah.
having a snowball of causal events that will eventually result in a hurricane
Yeah.
in combination with other events that's
Yeah.
happened. We're recording this podcast now here. We are creating sound waves which are being picked up by these microphones. And there will be probably, our listenership is regularly like 15 at the moment, but quite a few of them are in California apparently. I don't know why. Please get in touch and let us know where you found us out from, people in California. We really are interested. On @BreakBollocks at Twitter or Breaking Dad 71 on Facebook, is it?
It's Breaking Dad 71 on both, I think.
No, you got the Breaking Dad Twitter account, but we've got an @BreakBollocks account as well. But my point is, they are going to be playing our podcast through their loudspeakers or headphones or whatever, and it's going to be affecting what they do. It's going to be affecting... I mean, in a physical sense, you can say it's going to be creating sound waves which mirror the ones that are being captured by our mics. But I suppose you can kind of relate that to a causal effect of the things we're talking about are going to have effects on their lives, if you like.
Yeah.
However small.
If they
So
take
there is
it
a ripple
seriously,
effect
yeah.
that we're communicating
Yeah.
to the other side of the planet through time.
Well, that's sort of where I mean, I say sort of where I've recently derived a sort of meaning to life, but it's sort of something that I'd sort of said before, but I've now sort of realised it. But I don't know, nothing's really actually changed. It's just my approach to life has changed a little bit.
So everything's changed.
Yeah, well, that's sort of the idea of the observer. If I change the framework in which I view the world, then
The world changes completely.
yeah. Well, it's like, I have a lot of friends that are very political in quite often the wrong sense. So
Wrong to you.
yeah. Well, I feel like they've seen too much of someone just having this sort of idea of constant adversary relationship, and so they're just coming at discussions with completely the wrong idea of they have to win this discussion, rather than winning would be everyone learning to become a better person.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Winning is making people think, not making them think what you think.
Yeah, and this is what a lot of recently pundits online have gotten an audience out of, basically easing people's insecurities
Right.
into thinking, well, you get a reward if you agree with me because I've won this argument. Because they might be a very talented debater, but that doesn't mean that they're right.
No.
But
To be honest, if they are a really talented debater, then they won't necessarily be that sure of what is right. Because
that's the difference between debating and philosophy. Philosophy is sort of to
yeah.
try and
But
understand each other better.
I don't think you can be a talented debater without dabbling in philosophy, because you have to consider the possibilities of opposing views. And sometimes you will go into a debate with one.
That's not always the most persuasive technique.
No, but you can't say to me that you... Well, I would be surprised if you would say to me that you've not gone into any kind of argument or debate with a particular mindset and come out of it with another as a result of that debate.
I would say that I'm guilty of this as well, coming into argument in an adversarial way, because that's generally how arguments work.
It's difficult not to, isn't it?
Yeah. You have to make a conscious effort to try and learn from someone, which is where I've sort of found recently, I can actually derive a lot more meaning from talking to someone if I'm actually listening to them.
I think, to be honest, I think the whole world could benefit from a bit more self-awareness and what's known as mindfulness, just being aware of... I mean, the concept of, and there's been a lot of this with the Brexit thing that's been going on, of people believing that their opinions are formed from pure objective judgments, and that they're not affected by the information that's
Yeah.
being fed to them.
Well, good. I think when a lot of people are saying this, that the Leave campaign did use, I think it's Cambridge Analytica, but also a Canadian little small company called Aggregate IQ to try and target online ads towards people that would maybe not quite just yet vote for Leave, but if they got the right ads, they would. But people are quite high and mighty with that. It's like, oh, I would never be susceptible to such trickery.
But
everyone is.
That's a fallacy. Yeah. Otherwise, marketing wouldn't be a multi-billion-dollar industry. It works.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, you are being manipulated by the information sources which you're exposed to.
You have to really try to get
And that's the Matrix.
to overcome that.
Don't listen.
Well, in a way, yeah, listen, but be aware of it. There's an excellent film called They Live, which is based on a Stephen King short story, where this guy basically finds these. I mean, it's science fiction, it's nonsense, but the concepts behind it, the philosophies behind it, are quite interesting to think about. He finds these glasses in a box, which, when he puts them on, they kind of filter out the mask of reality, if you like, in that when he's looking around, he'll look up at billboards and they say things like eat, drink, consume, spend, generic kind of instructions on how to live your life, but they're all like in black and white when he puts these glasses on. But also, as he looks around, there are beings which are like aliens that are living amongst humans.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are in control. They're the ones with all the money and the watches and, expensive jewelry and stuff.
Yeah, I think I've seen a few clips. Like, they look down at a
But the first time I watched
bit of money and it says, "This is your god."
But the first time I watched that, it really made me think. And I think that's a beautiful thing with art, because I just suddenly thought about one of the most influential marketing campaigns that has ever been on the face of this planet. Simply says, enjoy Coke. It's an instruction. It's blatant. It's in your face. You don't think it's having any influence on you, but it's a command. It's a black and white. I mean, it's a red and white command. And you get a similar kind of thing with. I've just completely lost my train of thought.
Other colas are available.
Yeah, they are. I actually prefer Pepsi, to be honest. Unpopular though it might be. You tried that raspberry Pepsi Max?
No.
Very nice.
My favourite is Dr. Pepper.
I feel like we should be getting down off our philosophical high horses soon.
Then you get somebody who drops a penny in a can of Coke and shows what effect it has on the penny. I don't drink Coke anymore.
Don't you?
No.
But you use soap though.
No.
Don't you?
No.
How do you clean yourself then?
Well, I suppose you'd call it soap, but not soap in a solid form.
Okay.
I don't. I agree.
So where you smell?
Well, I use shampoo.
Oh, I use shampoo, yeah.
I mostly smell because I'm
This
a
one.
teenager.
Why do I smell then?
Because you're a fat prick.
That doesn't make you smell.
Well, it does if you sweat a lot.
How do you know what fat pricks smell like?
A lot of
the
experience.
two don't suggest a smell.
That reminds me. Sorry. Just gonna say that reminds me. It was Grandad's birthday a couple of days ago.
Friday.
Or it would have been if he hadn't died. Sorry.
Sorry, I was reading something.
His twin is still alive.
Yeah.
No, I was reading about my friend giving birth.
I said it was getting too serious. It's been hard work, hasn't it? I think the thing is, we're an hour and a quarter in, and I'm needing to make a roast dinner soon, and you're potentially wanting to watch The Matrix. We've got the second half of Everybody's Talking About Jamie.
I've got Topsy Nienna as well.
Yeah. Well, you can do that. It's going to take me a couple of hours to make the dinner. But I'm just thinking, like, we should at least give them 10, 15 minutes of light relief.
You two are not capable of light relief for a whole 10 minutes.
I know, we get sucked into... I need more beer.
No, you don't. You won't be able to cook.
Right.
Oh, I will. I'll put my progressive metal on. That'll do the trick.
There's an idea that...
Case in point.
Right, I'm getting on
It's
to...
his fault.
This is what I had in mind when I picked up the topic, and I don't think we've touched on it with the Matrix.
Have we not actually started what you wanted to talk about yet?
The simulation argument.
Oh, that's real.
Basically, if it's possible to simulate a universe, then it's incredibly likely that we're in a simulation.
How do you know that?
Well, basically, if you imagine... If it is possible to simulate a universe...
Oh, this is like... Yeah, but this is like infinite variations.
How do you know you're not the simulator?
Well, we could be. It's
the
just...
thing is, you then look
It's
in...
very unlikely because...
But this is...
You wouldn't create this anyway.
Okay, right, okay, let me try... Can I just
Yep.
explain what I think you mean by this and see if I'm right? Is that if there is an ultimate reality, that somebody in that reality would evolve to the point where they can create a simulation of their universe.
Yeah.
And they would do that. If they did that, it would be a simulation of the universe in which they created a simulation of their universe. So somebody within the simulated universe would create a simulation. And you would end up with an infinite number of simulations within simulations. And then statistically, if that happened, then it's infinitely likely that we are in one of the simulations rather than the ultimate reality.
Right.
I have got...
Is that kind of what you're talking about?
I have got a video here from one of our long-time favourites, Kurzgesagt, in a nutshell. I think that's German for in a nutshell. But anyway, this is a video that I have prepared beforehand.
Here's one I made earlier.
Is reality real? The simulation argument. We're going to have to rearrange slightly to view this, but we shall take a brief break as well, because I suspect we need it.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, we'll be back in a second or two, but an alternate amount of time will have expired in your universe.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's a mindfuck. Right, okay, so that was... What do you think of that?
I just thought there were an awful lot of simulation, of assumptions and what ifs.
But we base our entire existence on assumptions and what ifs.
Yeah.
And one thing it did make me think was I'm really scared about our next series killers series.
Right. Oh, yeah, because that's going to be The Sims.
It is.
Which is basically where you
The thing is,
control virtual
there's a
person's
semantic
life.
issue here that I take issue with. Is that at one point in that video he said, what if you aren't real? What if you are a simulation? It's like that. To me, is a contradiction in terms because a simulation is real. Otherwise, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. So it's almost like, well, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But, that's
whatever.
the thing within what we're able to confirm scientifically. It's sort of like, well, unless there is a way to observe another universe, then, or if there's a way to observe the effects of another universe on ours, then it's just sort of like, well, it's irrelevant. The camera's just gone.
Yeah, YouTube people. I can't be asked setting up the camera for another.
No.
So YouTube people, you'll be seeing just a screen now. To me, and I don't think the action of giving up on the sort of validity of finding out whether or not it's a simulation or not is necessarily the same thing. I think it's worthwhile trying to learn as much as we can. I think it's, being curious about the universe is a great thing.
Yeah.
But so I don't think that when you say, does it really matter? Your answer to that can be no, but you can still be really curious to find out. And in some ways,
but it's like that.
That gives curiosity its essence. Is like it's for its own sake, Just
that idea of the elastic band bending in different ways. That concept is inherent to quantum mechanics. Is inherent to semiconductors, which are in your mobile phone. Without them, mobile phones wouldn't be able to exist. Because it's sort of like, well, sometimes if the elastic band bends this way, it will conduct, and sometimes if it doesn't, it won't. That's the best way I can explain it, but it's sort of like, if we understand that better, and understanding other universes is helpful to understanding quantum mechanics.
Do you know what I did find?
Then we can create quantum computers, which would be multitudes more powerful than anything we can currently create.
Do you know what I did find quite curious, though, and quite interesting a concept was that part where he was saying about we don't need to simulate an entire universe. We just need to simulate the parts which the inhabitants of that simulation interact with in order to convince them of its existence. Is that
does what's underneath a rock exist until you look at it?
And is that not the same question as asking what's outside of that cone that we were talking about earlier?
Yes. That very much is, because basically if there's something blocking
matter?
your view of something...
Does it matter whether or not there's a galaxy right now that's 10 million light years away? Because it's not going to affect us until 10 million years' time.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it with a telescope, then it's sort of like, well, yes, it does matter, because if there was glitches there, then suddenly everything would stop to make sense.
Yeah, but we wouldn't need to observe that that galaxy.
Not right now.
Until 10 million years' time.
Yeah.
So as long as the simulation was in place by then.
Yeah. So
it wouldn't matter if it's there now or not.
But, if a civilization could exist where there is infinite computing power, then there's nothing to say that it would actually just be easier to just simulate it all at once, because then other civilizations other than
I can only see one
Earth could exist.
I can only see one version of reality where that would be possible, and that would be where we have harnessed the power of particles themselves to matriculate information, if you like.
Right.
To have infinite computing power, you have to, within a universe, you would have to have at your disposal the means to use every single particle in that universe to process information.
Not necessarily.
But I don't understand why not, because if there was any remaining matter within that universe with which you could process information, then you wouldn't have infinite computing power, because you could always add to it.
Our universe is infinite, though, and even if you take a small chunk of infinity, it's still infinity.
All right, we're getting down to sort of
Are we winding up?
microcosm and macrocosm now, aren't we?
Yeah, anyway, I think we've broken your brains enough for today, so we should probably wrap up. We'll leave that to sit with you, if you care to think about it.
If you've got to this point.
Yeah. And if you're having trouble dealing with life just because of anything that we've introduced, just go and watch a Peppa Pig or something. I don't know.
But we might come to this at some point. An important thing about that.
Or Peppa Pig. You
No,
think about Peppa Pig
Kurzgesagt.
and Mrs. Rabbit.
Kurzgesagt.
I saw a picture of what Peppa Pig must look like in 3 dimensions from the front.
Yeah,
Did you see that?
I think I have. But
Yeah.
Mrs. Rabbit does all the jobs.
What jobs?
All the jobs. She's the ambulance driver. She's the helicopter rescue pilot. She works in the shop.
What's happening right now?
This is irrelevant. Right. We're not going to watch it now, but there is a good video on optimistic nihilism from the same people. But basically, nihilism is the concept of, well, the universe is meaningless, so
Stop.
there's no real point to anything. But an optimistic nihilist, which is what I would call myself, and sort of I derive my meaning from being a humanist, believing in humanity, even if there's irrefutable evidence against the...
Do you know, the vast majority
good
of the wedding ceremonies
will of
I take
humanity.
part in now as a musician are humanist based. I can't remember the last religious wedding ceremony I took part in Scotland, and they've not actually been legal that long.
No, they've been
years.
quite popular. I think it's...
I don't know. Are they a legal thing in England?
No,
I
they're
don't know.
not.
Statistics show that humanist ceremonies are becoming very, very popular.
But are they?
They're not legal in England and Wales.
I don't know.
I don't think they're
I
legal.
think they are in Scotland, though, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah.
Yeah, most of them are.
They are legal in England and Wales in
Are they?
certain
No,
places.
there's been campaigns to try and get them legalised, but they're not yet.
I thought you could do it, but it's only in certain approved places and by certain approved people.
That's bizarre. That just seems bizarre to me. That
I think you're allowed to do like registrar.
We are humans.
Yeah.
But not...
You can get
Just
the
affect
registrar.
your
Specifically
legal
humanist
rights, really, won't it, as to whether they're legal or not.
oh well, that's what comes from living in a so-called Christian country.
We're going to get into a whole other
Right,
discussion.
shall we wind up? I want my roast dinner.
Oh, before we finish, would you like chicken breast or pork crackling? Or pork with crackling?
Chickling?
Well, that's all right, because that takes half an hour less.
Chickling.
So our reality is about to contain some Yorkshire puddings, some chicken, some mashed and roast potatoes, some carrots and sweet corn,
Don't.
and gravy.
Don't.
What?
Don't.
What, Yorkshire pudding boobs?
What?
You told me not to say Yorkshire pudding boobs.
I'm all I can imagine in my head now is your boobs.
No. No. I'm ending this podcast now.
I like mum's boobs.
I don't... No, shut up. Fuck off.
So did Theo when he was a baby.
No, I didn't.
No,
Didn't get the
he was
opportunity.
bottle-fed.
Oh,
He's safe from that
yes,
one
so
at
you.
least.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about this.
Okay, let's stop then.
Star stuff.
No.
Stop.
Shut up.
Aria's tried a few times with me, but
Star stuff shows your boobs. Theo's reality right now is...
Painful.
Super embarrassed. Oh dear.
I'll just think about your boobs instead.
Oh, stop the
I
podcast.
like
Stop
my
the
reality.
podcast. Shut up.
I like my reality.
Okay. Bye.
I don't like
How do
mine
we
right
finish
now.
this? We haven't.
I-
Look,
I-
you've got to do the ending, so we can
Go
do
on
the
then.
post-ending bit.
Go on
I
then,
have been
do the ending.
Firebolt. I've been Firebolt.
I've been the Orbiter.
What?
Who have you been?
Oh, I've been Maestro.
And this has been
Hang on.
Breaking Bollocks.
Hang on.
Episode 38.
and I've been your mummy.
And Star stuff.
Yeah.
With Yorkshire pudding boobs.
Nan.
And this has been episode 38 of Breaking Bollocks Reality. It's painful and cruel
Why?
reality.
What are you doing?
I'm doing. Shh.
That's even worse.
Oh my god.
I'm never gonna
It's been fun though. I think we should have Maestro back on at some point in the future. If she deigns to join us. It's been
probably not
interesting.
you though.
I'm not being sacked.
That
It is the channel is
Have we
called
finished?
Breaking
Has it
Bad.
stopped? As it's finished.
Yeah, this is the post-credits bit.
You should call it Breaking
of,
Fireball, really, because we tend to break in most weeks. Don't we?
Yeah, we're rebranding. It's Breaking Fireball.
To be honest, yeah, you do mostly break my psyche, even in the gaming ones.
I know how you can break Dad. Just get some of those videos
just
where somebody
restrain
breaks their
yourself.
leg and snaps it in half.
Oh,
He hates
no
it.
fingers.
On fingers as well, but you don't like legs.
Good thing the camera's not.
No, stop it. Put that away. Oh, look at that. No, look.
Look.
That doesn't sound good.
Does that not freak your head out?
Yeah.
It's just double jointed, that's all.
I'm not double jointed.
Yeah, how can you not be? Because his finger is your
mobile.
piano thing.
Double jointed.
That thumb shows he is extremely artistic. The shape
What are
of
you
that
talking
thumb.
about?
Shape of that thumb
Oh
shows
my
that he's
god!
artistic.
We used to watch a program that had stuff about palms of hands,
Oh no, don't
lifelines.
don't
It's
do
that thumb shows that his thumb is that shape. That's all it shows. It doesn't show that he's artistic. How does it show he's
I
artistic?
think it makes me a better musician, though.
It's a sign. It's not a sign. It's a thumb.
I noticed he was cracking his fingers a lot yesterday. I thought, no.
That's all right. That's good for pianists.
It causes arthritis.
No, it doesn't. That's a myth. It's been scientifically disproven. It does not cause arthritis.
It pops the bubbles in your cartilage. It has nothing to do with joints.
That has been researched. Honestly, scientifically, there is no evidence or proof whatsoever that has any link to arthritis.
Well, I
And
don't
in
have
actual fact,
arthritic fingers
I've
anyway.
actually read that it can actually be beneficial to pianists because it increases it
increases the flow of whatever.
I don't know what it does,
So-
but
sometimes
I find it. I sometimes do it when I'm playing piano.
Yeah.
And have we started again?
Sometimes my
I'm
thumb
hungry.
locks up and I can't actually move it until I crack it.
Okay, I need to go and cook chicken breast
Oh, here we go again.
and Yorkshire pudding boobs. We need to find a way to end the post-creditness.
And there's no outro to this. It just ends now.
The outro.
Right, this ends
Just
now.
stop the audio recording right now.
I can't
Yes, you
because
can.
I know I'm enjoying your discomfort.
Try harder.
Going away now. You have to.
I'm going to press the button. It says stop. I'm going to press it. Shall I kill
I'm
this?
gonna press it.
It's the red button. No. Oh. You can't even.
This podcast is part of the After Dark Podcast Network.